Hey everyone, welcome to Pet Hub's Facebook Live. Today we have a really super awesome guest. His name is Dr. John Howie. He is the CEO and co-founder of Lint Bells. Now you may be asking yourself, Lint Bells, what is Lint Bells? Well, don't worry, we're going to introduce you today. Lint Bells is a company that does incredible supplements for our pets. And they've got a really popular supplement called YuMOVE that is the #1 supplement for joint health, recommended by veterinarians all over the UK, and they're just now expanding into the United States. So we're super excited to have Dr. John Howie with us here today. Welcome, Dr. John.
Thank you, Lauren. It's great to see you.
So I know that Lint Bells is huge in the UK. I was telling you before we started today that I have even friends in the UK who are like, oh yeah, how do you not know about Lint Bells? Or how do you not know about YuMOVE? And so, but here in the United States, we're just now getting to know you. I know veterinarians have been recommending Lint Bells for about 1.5 years now, I think, here in the United States. But I would love it if you could give our audience just an introduction to you, Lint Bells, and how you got started so we know you better.
Yeah, sure. So my background is in science. So I'm a scientist originally. And I then moved into the food and health industry. So I spent a long time looking at how you can use nutrition, particularly to provide health benefits. And as part of that, we started looking at how we could do that for pets, for dogs, cats, and horses. And so we went into the science essentially of various nutritional items such as omega-3s and so on, and identified some opportunities where we could improve pet health by using the right nutrition in the supplement form rather than through the food. So we did that about 15 years ago, started the business, and as you say, we've now grown it up to be the #1 in the UK over the last 15 years.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about supplements. Before we dig into Lint Bells and YuMOVE, I have to, it's like the elephant in the room. Because, we hear a lot of claims bandied about all the time and about supplements and all the magic that they can do for your health as a human. And I mean, I know that any United States citizen can go into any grocery store here and you have shelf upon shelf upon shelf of all of these different supplements, and the internet is like blown up with them. But I mean, from #1, from a pet perspective, what does it mean for supplements? Let's talk about that first. But then after that, I want to dig in a little bit more into all the claims that are out there. So talk first about, when I think about a pet health supplement, what am I talking about?
Well, that covers a huge range of different types of products that people refer to as supplements. And I guess probably the most common first question I might get is, well, why isn't this stuff in my food? Surely I can get everything I need for my pet in the food. And the simple answer to that is there are just certain things that are really hard to put into a food. So either because of a technical reason, because they're not stable enough, they're sensitive active ingredients that won't go into a food and stay beneficial to the pet in that situation. Or it could just be that to put them into a food is really expensive. So a route to do that, to provide those health benefits to the pet, is actually to use a supplement. What a supplement then is, it depends. Some people call bits of jerky with something added a supplement.
Right.
In reality, what we're looking at when we're talking about supplements, we're saying the pet has a specific health need that we need to try and help. And that might be that they have stiff joints, or they have itchy skin, or they have a digestive problem of some sort. And so they need some extra support for that specific health condition. So from our perspective, we're always thinking about what is the challenge that the pet parent is dealing with? What has the dog or the cat got as an issue? And then what can we provide from an ingredient and nutrition point of view that can support that health condition?
Yeah.
And that's our view of supplements.
Well, and that's very helpful too, because you're right. There's a lot of things that I look at. I say, that's just a fancy treat. It's got something else added on, whatever. They use some fancy ingredient and then now they're putting the word supplement on it. And I tend to look at things with a lot of skepticism. And I don't know that everybody's like that, but I am. I immediately look at them like, that sounds like a lot of what. So I am very suspect of claims, which honestly, so many of them are hyperbolic. Like, this is going to be magic for your dog. And I'm like, okay, so let's maybe. So I would love it if you could, regular pet parents like me, maybe even those folks who aren't as skeptical as me, how do you know whether a supplement is really going to be good or it's just some fancy treat with some fancy sounding, ingredient in it.
And look, it's really difficult. It's incredibly difficult to differentiate, because there's no doubt there are a lot of people out there that are really good at marketing stuff, and they can make some fantastic claims, and they promise the earth, as you say. And that's true in all supplement space. Actually, that's true in the pet space. It's the same in the human space as well. I mean, I'm a nightmare if I go into a store and I'm standing looking at the supplements for humans, and there's somebody standing there, so I wouldn't buy that one. That's no good. How does a normal consumer, not some nerd like me, know what to buy?
Right.
And so I think there are a few things you can look for. You can look to see whether that company has done any research, and can you find anything that shows you they've done some scientific research to demonstrate that the product they're giving to or trying to sell to you actually does something? Is there any proof that product actually works, or any research behind the ingredients in it that would suggest that actually it would work? It's not easy, but generally companies that have done the research will tell you about it.
Yeah.
I suppose another way is you can look at, if you're online, you can look at the reviews. You could see, what do other pet parents say about this product? Do they think it's good? Now, the only challenge with that one sometimes is people will say stuff's good because they just used it and they don't want to say anything else. But you get a sense after a while of the types of products that are actually really doing a difference. People start talking about what their dog is doing differently to what they were doing before. And so you can use those sorts of approaches, and then try and understand what the quality parameters are that people are using. How can you be sure that what you're buying is actually what it says it is? And again, there you really have to drill into what the company's talking to you about on that one. It's not easy.
Well, it isn't easy. And, I think having that discerning eye, particularly, you mentioned reviews. I always look at reviews with skepticism. I mean, first and foremost, I'm like, if there are some really bad reviews in the mix, I'm like, okay, these might be legit. When they're all 5 stars, I'm like, not buying it. And the other thing I recently discovered is, there are some companies that frankly go out and buy, or they'll send a bunch of products to micro influencers or whatever, and then those influencers essentially are paid to come back and give a good review. And I think in some cases the review itself might be good, but they were maybe asked to not give a review if it's not good, and only give a review if it is, that kind of thing. And so I was looking at one particular product that's not in the health supplement, but I noticed that all of the reviews were within a 5-day period last year. And then before and after, they're very sparse. I'm like, okay, that's kind of your key to that. But clinical studies, I think for me, especially when they've been peer reviewed and they're based on solid science, for me, are what are the deciding factor for me. And I know we're going to get into that a little bit. But before we do, let's talk about the specific supplement that you are now expanding widely here in the United States, YuMOVE. So I'd love it if you could talk about YuMOVE, what it does, how it got developed, why it's the best, that kind of thing.
Sure. So we developed YuMOVE launched it back in 2009. So it's been around quite a long time now in the UK. As you say, it's recently coming to the US, but has been around for a good length of time now. We originally, when we were looking at it, said we weren't actually going to launch a joint supplement. It's a joint supplement for dogs that helps them run around more and enjoy life and take away some of those challenges they might have with mobility. But when we looked at the space, we said there are so many joint supplements. Why would we even start to think about it? But then when we looked a bit closer, and we realized that everybody was thinking about the same thing. Everybody was looking at things like glucosamine and chondroitin, and they were worrying about joint structure. So they were trying to worry about wear and tear in the joint. But the real challenge is that as the dog ages, they're finding it harder to move around. They're finding it difficult to run, to chase balls, to climb stairs, etc. And so we said, well, what we need to do then is work out how we make that piece of their life easier. How do we help them to be more mobile and run around more? Because the more mobile they are, the healthier they stay for longer. So we started looking for active ingredients that would help us in helping them to feel more comfortable. And so we did a huge trawl of all of the research that was available on different natural ingredients. And one of those that we landed on was green-lip mussel, which is a really unique source of omega-3s. that are great for helping dogs to move more. And there's a good body of scientific evidence already published to show that green muscle was helpful for that. So we started building our supplement around that. And then we included things like glucosamine, because you do need some structural stuff. Mm-hmm. And we put in something called hyaluronic acid, because you need to lubricate the joints and help them to stay healthy as well. But that was the core of it, to say this product needs to help the dog to move more than it does. Why it's called YuMOVE, because it helps the dog to move more. And then, having done all of that, we then wanted to put our own science behind it. And so we then commissioned clinical studies, first with the Royal Veterinary College here in the UK, which is the UK, one of the UK's leading veterinary schools here. Mm-hmm. And then we did a second study in New Zealand with Massey University, which is the leading university in New Zealand for veterinary science. So we wanted to put our own proof behind our products. So, we promise you that this is going to help your dog to move better, right, and we want to prove that. So that's what we did.
I love it. And I've used a lot of joint supplements in the past for my dogs and for myself. And I've found that some of them work extremely well, and some of them work not so well. But it's interesting to me as I'm listening to you. You mentioned, keep them active. That will prevent or prolong that damage from happening. So in my mind, I'm like, well, wait, most of my dogs started taking the joint supplement when they were in that senior dog category. Is this something that then is really recommended for the lifetime of the dog, or just you bring it in when you start noticing the dog's getting a little creaky?
I mean, I always think that prevention is better than cure when you're looking at these things.
Sure.
Now, naturally, and it's perfectly, what you've described is perfectly normal. People notice that their dog might be slowing down a bit or struggling to get out of the basket. That tends to be the trigger when they start thinking about this. And you can still do a huge amount at that time. It's not as though it's too late. Right. And obviously, a lot of our customers, the first time they meet us, they're in that situation already. And so we'll help them. But even at that point, if you can help the dog to move better at that point, the important thing with all of this, when they're running around and enjoying themselves, they're maintaining their muscle mass. So they're maintaining the support, the muscle support around the joint itself, which means that you get this sort of nasty cycle that if the muscle mass starts to fall away, the joint wobbles more. So it wears out faster. And so that becomes less comfortable much quicker. And then you get this cycle because they say, well, I'm not going to move so much because it hurts. And so then the muscles go and then the joint wobbles more and it just cycles and there's no way back. So the sooner you can start, the better, because you're getting into that cycle at an earlier point. So whilst we started in that place with the older dogs, we've now got a young and active formulation for younger dogs, and particularly if you've got very active dogs that are really, they're running around a lot. They might be doing something like agility or flyball or a sport of some sort. That they'll tend to be creating extra wear on their joints. So certainly for those sorts of dogs, or indeed if you've had a dog that has hurt itself at some point, again, it helps just to keep them maintained in good health before they get to that late stage.
That place, yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier, we've been doing this since 2009. So we've got the original dogs, the children of the dogs, the grandchildren, so we've gone generational on this. And what we tend to find is our customers that have been with us the longest tend to start their next dogs much earlier than they did the original dog. They kind of said, actually, I'm going to go in earlier on in my
because they've seen how effective it was with the older dogs. So why not get that prevention piece in there and prolong for when those joint aches and pains are going to happen. And that kind of also leads into my next question with it's all about science and tracking and actually saying like, okay, here are the actual results, and then how can we improve? How can we go? And so I would love it if you could talk just a little bit more about the science and actually those studies that you do and why it's so critical, because so many, honestly, bags of dog treats that are labeled as supplements or even joint health have nothing behind them other than like, well, we're using this ingredient that other studies have said works. So can you talk a little bit about why that continued science and continue taking a really close, critical view of what you're putting out there is so important?
Definitely. And I think, the reason that a lot of companies don't do the science, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is really expensive. So you've got to believe that your product's going to come through that scientific rigor and come out the other side if you're going to invest. The first study we did cost far more than the entire income of our company on an annual basis, but we decided to do that because that's what we believed was the right thing to do. So it's a really expensive thing to do, so not many people do it. Secondly, as I say, you need to be confident that your product's actually going to do what you think the science should show you. So again, a lot of people don't necessarily have that confidence that they're going to show the right thing. What we wanted to do in our studies, though, was to actually track the mobility of the dogs. So rather than just taking them and saying, well, do they stand better? What happens when what does a vet think of them with our product or not? We did a full clinical study where we compared YuMOVE to a placebo control. So something to check that it wasn't just the owner thinking the dog was better.
Right.
But in order to get rid of any of that concern about whether it's just an opinion, we actually used activity monitors, which they're kind of like, you get them now for dogs. You didn't at the time, like Fitbits for dogs.
Right.
And you attach it to the dog's collar, and that measures all the movement the dog does at the time it's running through the study. So we were actually able to say, well, are these dogs more active? Are they running more? Are they walking more? Are they spending more time playing when they're on YuMOVE versus when they're on the control product? And that's what we showed. So we showed that there was a statistically significant difference in the amount of movement that the dog had when they were on YuMOVE. And so that's what enabled us to, in the UK, we can now say that our product is clinically proven because we've gone through that study and we've shown that.
Well, now you have to go to the US, where I know that rules are a little bit different here in terms of what you can and cannot claim. But can you talk a little bit about, like, so here in the United States, I mean, how much of that are you able, obviously you can publish your clinical studies, but how much of that are you able to communicate to US folks?
Yeah, well, it is different. And actually there are certain things we can say in the UK that we can't say in the US. There are other things that we can talk much more about our study in the US than we can in the UK. So the rules are all, and that's the same with any market that we get, because we're not just in the UK, we're in Europe, we're in Asia. So we're in a lot of different countries around the world, and each one is different. So we have to keep adjusting what we say. And I have to keep remembering whichever country I'm in and doing an interview like this, what set of rules am I working with in the back of my head to what I can say. And so we are able to do much more communication actually in the US market. We're able to do much more communication with the veterinary profession, for example, about our study than we could with the UK veterinary profession. So we're able to explain it to vets within a consumer environment, within talking to pet parents. We just have to say clinically studied. Right. But essentially, we've proven our product works. We've proven our product. Trust us. Yeah. That's always the difficult bit. How do you listen to me sitting on a chat? Well, you would say that. Yeah. YuMOVE logo sitting behind him. He's bound to. It's hard. Yeah, I know, and I, of course, just because I'm a skeptic, my family background is they're all scientists. I'm the only non-scientist of the group, but they're all scientists. And so I always go, who paid for that study? Kind of a thing. And it's hard because it's trying to get that third party, neutral party to come in and do that study for you. I mean, it's exorbitantly expensive. And so, but that being said, the fact that you took the investment, it does mean a lot to me, actually. And I think a lot of consumers. On that point specifically, yes, we've paid for the study, but we've and this is perhaps something for listeners to think about as well, is we've intentionally gone to universities, independent universities, world-recognized universities, who have their own reputation to think about. They can't be seen to be biased. They can't be seen to be playing the company message. And we've done that intentionally because you will find that some companies will go and do their own studies, with full control over whoever is studying that product. We've intentionally said, no, we go to independent groups in order to do that work, so that you don't have that bias that might come from somebody that was paid by us effectively. I love it. And then you tell them, here's the question we want to answer, and then they get to develop the experiment. They get to have the control of the variance, have all that. So let's talk a little bit more about case studies, because I know that
our audience would really love to hear about, okay, so what are some of the stories? I mean, are there any things you go, wow, that is so awesome? Because I think when you can make it personal with, one dog or one cat, it really kind of makes it feel more real. And then folks can get, oh, this might be what I need for my dog or cat.
Yeah. So I've got to think through my 1.5 million case studies to see if I can find that's roughly the number of dogs we've got using it now.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, obviously I'm sitting here in the UK, so we're recording this quite late in the UK, but for my morning, I sat on a call this morning with our guys who were reviewing our latest reviews on our Trustpilot site. There's about 30,000 reviews on there. So just recounting all these stories. Probably actually though, one of my favorites, going back a bit now, is when we were doing that original work. One of the owners on that study decided to do before and after videos. Now I'm not allowed to show them in the UK.
Right.
But there's a dog called Rusty, and essentially had a lot of challenges in his front legs, and so that's why the owner had asked to be involved in the study. And she sent me the before video, and it was quite heartbreaking. Actually, you could really understand what that dog was dealing with, and what that meant for the owner. And so I said, okay, well, we've definitely got a tough case here. This is going to be an interesting one to see how this goes. So then 6 weeks later, sent me the second video after, and the same dog was running down the garden path to her, and I shouldn't say transformation, but the change was incredible, and it was just, you could see the emotional impact it was having on it, and I thought that was the end of it. Then about 6 months later, she sent me another video. I said, look at him now, and there he was running through a field, and the sun was shining, so for me, it was lovely to see not just that first piece and go, okay, that's what we've designed the product to do. Yeah. But actually, it's the fact that continued use had helped him to get out to the point where, from barely being able to get across the floor in the house, he was now going out for a walk in the field and enjoying himself.
That's awesome.
And you see that time and time again with the reviews that come in. Loads of people say, oh, he's like a puppy again. And giving me my dog back, and it's emotionally, it's incredibly rewarding. And the guys this morning, as we were going through these reviews, you can see them sort of welling up with tears. Some of the emotion that was coming out from people saying, "Thank you for what you've done for my dog." And it's so nice to have my dog.
I do love those customers. Now, you said you can't show them in the UK. Can we show them here in the United States?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to. I suspect. Well, let's put it a different way. In the UK, I can't show it. Right,
but we could show it maybe.
But the owners definitely can. So I suspect if you Googled YuMOVE Rusty, you'd probably find the owner.
All right. Well, we will do a little Google foo and see if we can find those videos, and then maybe we'll share them in the notes below. So I love it. And one thing that occurred to me, because we talk about pets in general, but I know that we've been banding about the word dog. Is this something for cats, or is this just for dogs?
No, we do cat supplement as well. So it's based on the same science. It's a slightly different formula. It's adapted for a cat rather than a dog. But no, we've got thousands of cats using YuMOVE Cat as well, and that is available in the US as well now. It's just we've only recently introduced it, actually, because we started with the dog products, but we just immediately got demand, certainly from a lot of the veterinary hospitals that are stocking YuMOVE in the US now. Just said, right, so where's the cat version?
Where's the cat?
We've got one here, and then they turn around and say, and where's the horse version? So now we've just launched the.
Oh wow! So you have the canine, feline, and equine all out in the veterinary market. That's fantastic. Yeah. And I know too, just peeking around on the Lentval site, you do more than just the joint supplement stuff. But how much of it is available in the US?
At the moment, the other main product that we've got available in the US is our anxiety supplement called YuCalm. Which we've had in the UK for a long time, but we were getting demand for that, so we've launched the YuCalm product, and that was one, again, back to the science. There's a university in the UK, a veterinary school in the UK, at the University of Bristol, and they're the specialists in behaviour, in helping with animal behavior. So we actually went to them and developed it with them. We used their expertise, and they did all the initial research and so on for that. So again, there's research sitting behind UCalm, and it's not just about calming the dogs down. We've tried to help them to feel happier and more rewarded. So it's about helping them to train out of whatever it is they're anxious about. So calm them down from what they're scared of, but also you can use it to train the dog to be more comfortable with whatever that anxiety trigger was.
Oh, I love it. And it sounds like it's backed by the same level of science that you put behind the YuMOVE, which is important, I think. I know we're running out of time here, so I want to make sure that you get a chance to tell us where folks here in the United States can get YuMOVE or even UCalm for their pets.
Yeah, so I mean, you can go to our website, and if you want to sort of read more about it, YuMOVE.com has all of the information on that. But we're also available on sites like Chewy as well. So if you're on Chewy buying some of your other products from there, you'll find YuMOVE and UCalm on there as well. So that's probably the easy places to find it. Or indeed, we can talk to the veterinarian, because we have different strengths of formula. So we have a veterinary formula particularly for very old dogs, which you can get from your veterinary hospital.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Dr. John Howie. Really great having you on the show today. And folks, if you have any ideas or things that you'd like us to cover on one of our shows, please drop us a note. Just do it here in the comments. We'll get it, and we'll see what we can do to get that show out there for you. Thanks so much for joining us today, and have a great day with your pets.